Well, today is the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, and here in Newfoundland and Labrador, we like to think that we're welcoming, but that isn't always the experience that people face when they come to the province. There's a documentary tonight that's looking at the experience of young people who have come from other places to Newfoundland and Labrador, and two of the people in the documentary are with me here. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
So, first of all, I want to ask you about the experiences that you shared in this documentary. So what was your experience when you first came to Newfoundland and Labrador? What sort of reception did you get?
When I first moved here, it seemed very welcoming and everyone seemed very lovely. But when you got to school and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, you're new. Where are you from?" and you say, "Oh, I'm from Ontario," that's when the hostility came in. On the second day of school, when I first came to Newfoundland, I was told that Mainlanders should be stoned, and it only really progressed from there when I was during certain cultural holidays, when I began to share my culture and my religion. It just got worse from there. Being like, people threatened to rip off my sari and beat me up, or people were just making fun of the fact that I was from a different culture, like attacking my family personally or religiously because we were from a different culture.
What was it like to go through that?
It was disheartening and upsetting, because when you hear all these nice things about Newfoundland and Labrador, everyone's like, Newfoundland and Labradorians are so accepting and they make you feel like you're a home away from home. But when you actually go there and you experience this racism, it's kind of like shattered reality to what it actually is, and it really made me question, because I was also growing up there. I came here when I was like 11, 12. It really made me have to think about things more deeply when I talk to people, or sort of like how I framed things, kind of like how to protect myself from these attacks as well. Yes.
So Miguel, you grew up playing hockey. What was that experience like?
I think from a very young age I knew I was different. I knew I'm an Asian Canadian, so I was different, and I was reminded I was different in very different ways. So things were good, but things were bad. I think the bad was highlighted. It wasn't great, no.
And tell me, what was the bad side? What were some of those experiences that you went through?
I think a lot of the ignorances is stuff like people are surprised that I play hockey. People are questioning my ability just because of the way I look, and different slurs and just being pointed out, and yeah, it just wasn't great. Yeah.
And what did that do for your hockey experience? Because this is supposed to be team building. This is supposed to be the thing that you look forward to.
It isolated me, for sure. I think looking back on it now at 27, I realize how it affected my mental health and how much it put me in a box away from everyone else. And no, it wasn't great. It wasn't great, no.
This isn't easy to talk about, both to me now and in the documentary. I want to ask each of you, why did you decide to come forward and share your stories?
Personally, I decided to come forward and share my stories because I wanted to make Newfoundland a better place for people who are also coming from, not from Newfoundland, or even people who are here but who also still face racism and discrimination. I wanted it to become, this documentary to become like an educational tool for these people, or people who treat these people with racism and discrimination, disrespect. I wanted it to be a resource for people to understand, like, similar to how you mentioned how it's like he felt isolated and alone, for people to understand like they are not alone, but they also shouldn't have to, everyone shouldn't have to face this in general. So I wanted to participate, to share my story as a learning tool for people who are perpetrators of the racism and discrimination, to help learn how what they're doing is affecting people, but also for people who are facing it to understand that it's not just them, and to definitely reach out, and with people like Shanger Cultures who can definitely help you with these issues as well.
Very similar answer, I guess. I really wanted to share my experiences, and one, hopefully help people learn from those experiences, and like you said, just not feeling alone, because during those situations you really do feel like alone, and it only compounds from there. So I think making sure people don't feel alone in those same situations.
What about the decision makers, the people that are either running the schools, running hockey? What role do you think they have, and what do you think they can learn from the experiences that are being shared here?
I guess a big thing as well that also contributes to people who are experiencing these things, that helps contribute to their isolation, is that people often ignore the problem when you bring it up, or they're very dismissive of it, which makes you question if it was ever actually a problem. So I guess one thing I can say for the decision makers is to not brush aside the issue and to actually address it when someone comes to you with these issues, because if you don't address it when the first person comes, there's obviously people who experienced it before that, and there's going to be people who experience it after that. So if we address it when you hear it, there will be less chance for this problem to fester for others.
I think very similar answer, but it comes down to like colorblindness. I think it's important to not turn a blind eye and learn from all the situations, because in my experience, it was always like, that's not that racist, or is that really racist, or should we actually do something? So that creates like an effect where you're building a tolerance to racism where the small things aren't being addressed and the middle aren't being addressed, only the widely overt is being addressed. So I guess my answer would be not be colorblind and learn and listen to those situations.
Well, thank you very much, both of you, for sharing your experiences, and good luck tonight screening the documentary.
Thank you.
Thank you.